Hello, guys. Hello, guys. Hello, guys. Good morning. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Xah Talk Show. We are going to do random-ish talk. Okay, my keyboard. This is Ultimate Hacking Keyboard UHK80, and this is Nulea trackball NULEA. Nulea. What is it? M505. Okay, fantastic. This is Logitech G502. Fantastic. I have reviews on my YouTube for them. Okay, so we're gonna do random-ish. Mostly, I'm gonna code Emacs Lisp programming language, and I'm also gonna code possibly Wolfram Language. So I'm just going to do my work. This is my office hours. You are here. If you are here, say hi. You can just watch me do my work, or you can ask me questions. Post your questions in the comment. If you are watching this offline, play at 1.5 speed. Okay. Play at 1.5 speed or twice as fast. Let me have my coffee. Okay, so today there's always a lot work to do. In this AI age, personally for me, I got lots of things I need to do. Wolfram language coding, but also study proof theories and so on. By the way, the thumbnail you are looking at is AI generated. It's funny. It says, "Do what I want, stupid robot." So the AI generated hot girls fighting. Okay, so that is from Twitter, from a Twitter post someone did. So AI is becoming incredible, of course. The AI can write poems, can write code, can generate artwork or cinematographic, like Hollywood style movies. So where is it? So let me show you. Okay, so that animation, yeah, there's quite a few. There's actually tons. So the one in the thumbnail you are looking at is this one. Okay, let's play it. Why not? Okay, it's amazing. Fantastic. Now this screen stuck. Let me unstuck it. Actually, it stuck this good. Wait, did it? It stuck. Yeah. Okay. So notice it's girls, of course, hot girls showing their legs and feet and tits and fighting. Of course, in real life, girls, they are never warriors. Girls, they are not soldiers, they are not warriors, they are not fighters. Almost never. I mean, rarely, occasionally, you might have one, in like one among a million, but usually not. So, but however, it's a man's fantasy to have girl warriors, girl soldiers, and lots of like all the games you see, all the female characters, fighting games or whatever games, all the female characters, they are like all fantasy. And also, yeah, well, anyway, but one, so one, also this is true in Chinese kung fu movies. Like in kung fu movies, you often see Chinese women, and they doing great kung fu, but that's not reality. Okay, it's like reality, and it became apparent in USA in the past 10 years. We can see because of the trans movement. Girls in terms of their physical capabilities compared to men, they are not comparable at all, because you can see in the trans movement, the trans, they broke the record of all female sports in everywhere, while these trans men, they are like at the lower bottom of ranking among males. But if they compete with women, they break all the women's records in every sport. So that kind of pokes, that shows the reality of all these female warriors and female fighters. They don't exist. And also, you see, also in boxing, for example, in real life boxing, we have heavyweight, lightweight, or whatever classes, and also MMA, multi-style martial art competition, something like that. There's also female competition, female versus female, but female, they are basically no match for males, physically at least. So this is important because I think because we don't, we like in modern society, we forgot lots of things we don't know. For example, you don't even know how to kill a cow or a pig or a chicken, for that matter. Like you don't know how to, but you do eat chickens and beef and pork. You enjoy them. You have to eat them, like almost you have to, but you forgot how to kill them. Someone else do it, of course. So that's the situation of modern society. There's good, there's bad. So it's, by the way, it's not some it's there for something. It's not some magical theories. It just some of the fact of how things are. Okay, that's about that thumbnail. So okay, so actually, one of the issue with doing streams is that, like, usually every day I have a lot of work to do, but when I do stream, if I just get on to do my work, then the video is very boring because you don't know what I'm doing. You just like it is very boring. But if I do explain and make it interesting, for example, I want to explain, for example, there's this Emacs task, Emacs Lisp. So for those of you, well, I have to kind of explain what is Emacs, the most powerful editor for you programmers. Some of you use Vim or NeoVim or VS Code, right? So I have to, like today, there's fewer and fewer people use Emacs. So I have to tell you what it is, especially for the young people, the young people who got nothing to do. That's likely that's the the majority of audience watching YouTube actually are these young people. Because when you are young, you have lots of time. You go to school, but you have lots of time. You do random things. You watch videos. But when you are older, usually you have a job. You get tired coding at a job. You don't watch videos. Or you have a family. You need to take care of lots of things. So it's mostly younger people watch. So younger people, you may not know what is Emacs. So I have to explain. Then Emacs Lisp, even rare people know about it. Then I have to explain what. So anyway, my point is that, so when you do a live stream, if I just do my work on my website, the video is very boring. But if I start to explain, then I cannot do work. They actually, there's no serious work done. So I just end up talking to you guys what this is about along the way for 1 hour. But I don't actually do any, not much progress in what I need to do. So for example, here is example, HTML open in browser. So for example, this Emacs, for example, I can press a key that will show the current buffer or page untitled file. Well, titled file, saved, show the current file in a browser, right? So you can see. And so how does that work? Well, that is actually because I have written a command called Xah HTML open in browser. Okay, so I can describe key, then I can show you. So here is a command, Xah HTML open in browser. In this file, Xah HTML mode.el. So let's open it. So here is the source code you are looking at. 2000, 3000 lines of code for that file, but actually there is, there's actually several files. So altogether there may be 10,000 lines of code for my HTML mode. So anyway, back to the, so close it. So anyway, so I'm saying, so I got this command that opens the current file in browser. Okay, switch back. Now, but I want to make a modification. I want to make it so that whenever I have a source code, let me explain. Okay, so let me explain what I'm doing this. So what is this? So office hours. So actually you need to, where is that? Okay, so it's actually here. Okay, so I have another command that is Xah HTML re-HTMLize pre-code buffer. What does that mean? Let me show you. Okay, so you see, basically whatever I do, it will take like 5 minutes or even 10 minutes simply to explain it. Then whoever you are watching, you will find it interesting. For example, I have to explain. For example, what does I explained. I got HTML mode. I showed you the source code. That's what this command do. Show in browser, right? I have to demonstrate it. But then I'm saying that it should automatically call this command. But what does this command do? I have to explain. So let me do a demo, because doing a demo is easiest. For example, I start a pre-tag. Let's say JavaScript. Okay, so I have a pre-class JavaScript, then pop it out, then console log 3. Okay, run it. You can see I can create a JavaScript kind of file, and I can run the code. It prints 3. This is JavaScript code, and I put it back. So you can see I can create this pre-tag of the class JavaScript of a programming language. You see, so now showing browser, you can see, scroll down, you can see you got this, you see JavaScript code, embedded code in HTML. This is all Xah HTML mode. So anyway, so then what? So but let's say, for example, pre-log, let's say ampersand. So let's say I want to say this char is called ampersand in English. Okay, we are talking about that character. You see, ampersand. So run it. It works. You see, this is JavaScript code. Now put it back. Now showing browser. Okay, it still works, but let's see. Let's say I want to do this. Let's say I want to say in HTML, to create a paragraph, you have to type like this. Okay, then put it. Okay, let's say. Okay, in HTML, to create a paragraph, you have to type, that. Okay, now run it. You see, this is valid JavaScript code, right? Now put it back. Okay, now showing browser. Now you look at the code. The code now is fucked up. You see, it says in HTML to create a paragraph, you have to type what? Empty. You see, you see, why is that? Because this P is interpreted as HTML tag. So in other words, inside this pre tag, you need to escape these HTML tags, right? So how do you do that? Well, there are many ways, but one of the easiest way, I have this command, press. You see, it become that. So that command is called Xah HTML re-HTMLize pre-code buffer, meaning that every pre tag in the file, there will be re-HTMLize, meaning syntax colored. So any special tag or characters such as ampersand, they will be escaped like this. So you see, this is called HTML entities. So that LT means less than symbol. Then P, then ampersand, GT means greater than. So that is basically, the less than P, then greater than, like bracket. So anyway, now you go back to the browser and you refresh here. Watch here, refresh. See, now it's good. You see, in HTML to create a paragraph, you have to type that like this, right? So now you understand there is this command. This command is called here, HTML re-HTMLize pre-code buffer. That means check the current file. Whenever there is pre something, basically syntax color it, okay, and also escape the entities. So now it makes sense. You see now. So in Emacs Lisp, add a hook to Xah HTML mode. So when Xah HTML open in browser command is called, which is this one. Okay, open in browser command is called, automatically call the command Xah HTML re-HTMLize pre-code buffer. Why do you want to do that? Because if you forgot to, let's say I'm doing a demo, I finish it, put it back. I forgot to, encode this. Then I go to sleep, but if you show this in browser, obviously it's wrong. You see? So what I want to do is that, make the command so whenever you show it in browser, it may automatically do that. Right? So that's the idea. But you see, no, so if I'm doing this by myself, I just do it, finish in 5 minutes. But if I do a live stream, it kind of actually takes 10 minutes to explain it already. But then you guys may find it interesting, especially Emacs users. So, you can see, oh, so that is why you need to do this. And how do you do it? We haven't done that yet. So we need to do that. Then I'm going to explain. Okay, so we haven't done that yet. So anyway, but so far I'm just explaining about the process of doing live stream versus just coding. Like there's this issue which I posted a blog about here. Magnify. Let's see. Shift control. Control. Scroll up. Magnify. You see. problem with live stream is that if I actually do work, the video is very boring. If I talk about interesting things of what I am doing, such as programming language design issues, why you need to do it and how to do it, things like that, then I wouldn't get serious coding done, because it just me explaining, it became like a tutorial, like a lecture. So you see, so there's this dilemma, because usually I don't like to do I don't like to do tutorials, like, well, because tutorials, usually there are a few reasons. Usually they are pre-recorded. So first of all, okay, let me briefly explain it. Hello, Nanjahan. Let's hope we don't go up too late. But if you actually hope you don't go up, if you have to be careful of what you wish for, because you have to, like if there's a genie or a god, you can make some wishes come true. If that is true, then you actually have to be careful. Is that really what you want? Hope we don't grow up. Because if that comes true, then you may suddenly realize there's lots of problem with that. You don't want that. Okay, like you want to grow up, be good. You don't want to stay a kid forever. Obviously, there are several. Like if you are staying as a kid forever, you might be, you don't have prejudices, you don't have like worry, you don't have to worry because your parents provide for you. You just play every day, right? But you do have lots of, even as a kid, you do have lots of stress too, even as a kid. Because when you want some candy or toy, you have to ask your parents, and sometimes your parents says no. Then you cry, but there's nothing you can do. Like, and also sometimes what happens, when you have your parent is not a good one, it does happen. In fact, often. So I mean, or so-called abusive parents, or like when we are a child, we don't know what's a parent, what's an adult, but eventually, pretty soon we all became an adult, and we don't know shit. Like, how do you know how to raise a child? You don't know. So when you actually have a child, which does happen, for most of us, you don't know. You don't really know what is a proper way to parenting. So often, or half of the time, you make mistakes. You did things that that's not good. And that's for good people. Then on the other hand, there are bad people. Like, for example, you got robbers, you got thieves, you got all sort of evil person, right? They cheat or they lie or whatever. And those people, they have kids too. So they don't care, they abuse their kids or even sell them or whatever, right? So when you make wish, the common saying, like, let's wish, we don't grow up, like, when it become true, it may actually be problematic. So that's a part of like a bit of philosophy there about thinking about all the different things. Okay. So anyway, we are back to, so I was, like, for example, so I wanted to work on that. So it's okay. Let's do it. Let me do it. Okay, so if you are here, say hi. Okay, if you enjoy, whatever you are watching, just say hi. Otherwise, I'm just gonna code. Like, I explain if I feel like it. If it's better. If I did not explain, but if you want to know, any of you can ask. So, actually, I have a lot to do. So, so there's Emacs coding, right? So there's that Emacs coding here. There's another Emacs coding. This one is about modify Xah HTML move image file. So it as a random letters in file name, not just hexadecimal. Okay, that's another Emacs Lisp coding job. So if I do this, it will be of interest to those of you Emacs users, Emacs fans. Say hi, okay? And there's other things. There's about polymorphism in Wolfram language, in Python, in Emacs Lisp. I can explain. So this is about programming language design and programming practice. There is this thing called polymorphism, which is, in my opinion, that's an idiotic jargon from the industrial coding idiots. Polymorphism. Okay, that basically means a function. That basically means a feature of a programming language. Polymorphism, a feature of a programming language such that when you define a function, the function can easily behave according to the type of the argument or the number of arguments. In other words, the function, you can easily define a function. Its behavior depends on what is the type of the argument or how many arguments are there given to the function. So if the programming language allows you to easily do that, then you say it supports polymorphism. Again, now remember, again, this is for function definition, okay, for functions parameters. So we're gonna explore, like, can you do that in Emacs Lisp, or can you do that in Emacs Lisp, or Lisp? Can you do that in Python? And I did ask AI, so I can show you. And also, can we do that in Golang, Go programming language? Okay. Do you guys know? Do you guys know my work? Like, how many are you guys are here watching? Golang. Okay, so I have lots of tutorials, JavaScript, Visual, CSS, Golang. So can you do that in Python? Can you do that in JavaScript? Polymorphism. Can you do that in Golang? And how do you do that in Wolfram language? So I can demonstrate that. Okay. So that is up to you guys. So so if you guys are here, if you are interested in any of this, you want see me do, and just say, okay. Otherwise, I think I'm just gonna do whatever I come across. And also there are some more things to do that I wanted to do. Oh yeah, so write the Xah HTML ampersand to end instead of Xah HTML decode ampersand entity or encode. So that it is that one. And the other issue about polymorphism is, what is a better jargon than polymorphism? Is there a better terminology for polymorphism in computer science programming languages? Okay, for example, what we can call it argument form dependency, argument form dependent. So if you say that, I think that's actually more clear, because when you read this jargon, arg form dependent, it kind of tell you what it means better than polymorphism. Like because when you hear polymorphism, it's like, what is that? What polymorphism? Like multiple forms. Okay, but then argument form dependency might be more clear. I don't know. So there are other things, I'm currently doing about, anyway, so let me just do a stuff, okay? So I open in HTML browser, HTML, re-HTML lines, okay? So copy that command and the describe key, press that key, go to the source code. There it is. And all we want to do is add a hook. Okay, so Xah HTML open in browser hook. So I already got 2 hooks. So let's see. So this is potentially a new one. What are these? Okay, so it goes long. So let me expand the window. So we got this hook, which is HTML validate HTML buffer that we want. Then there is this hook, clean white space we want, but we want the clean white space first. Let's see. When you add a hook, it's added to the front. So okay, so yeah, so display HR as line. We don't want that. HTML add paragraph text buffer. We don't want that. Okay, but okay, so that's re-HTMLized buffer. Okay, so basically do that first. Clean white space and then do that. Should that be it? I think so. So this hook is a variable. You can look at it. It's a variable. So the current values are, you see, there are 2 values there. Clean white space and the validate HTML. But now let's kill it. I mean, set it to nil. Okay, do it. Now describe variable, same variable. Now the value is nil. Okay, now just run this. Okay, run it, run it, run it, command out. Okay, save it. Now describe variable that. Now you can see the value is that, and that. Okay, so we added re-HTMLized precode buffer. We added that. Okay, so we can call the command. Let me show you this command. This is vcdiff. Okay, so do vcdiff. So you can see we added this line, and we just added that line. This is kind of idiotic. What is this? Save. Do it again. Yeah, right. So we just basically added this line. That's good. Okay, close. Now, so now when we show this file in browser, you see there's this tag which is not encoded to entities. We need to encode them to entities. Okay, so but now we're gonna show in browser, it will automatically encode them into entities. Watch. Show in browser. You see, so now look at the browser. It's good. Now go back to Emacs. You see, fantastic and beautiful. Okay, that's one thing done. Fantastic and beautiful. So this thing is done. So remove the Xah office hours. Let's remove that. Office delete. So you see in Xah HTML mode, I can press one single key and remove the corresponding semantic unit and syntactical unit. That's this li, which is a list. Okay, you see, press one key, it's gone. Undo. Now you can see the command is Xah smart delete, a single key, E. Okay, if my cursor is here, I press the key, it will delete the entire list. For example, let me show you. Cursor here, press, you see, fantastic. Undo. Okay, so but now we just want to remove this part. So press, you see, that is gone. Back to browser. You see, watch here. Refresh, it's gone. So that item is done. What about this Emacs Lisp modify Xah HTML move image file, so it adds a random letter. Okay, let me show you what that is. This one, okay? So I have a command. So for example, I write a lot of blogs, as you know. So I want to make a screenshot. Let's say that. See? So I have it set up so it opens the folder. So there is a screenshot we just did. Delete it. Okay. Cancel. Now let's make some more beautiful screenshots of something. Click here. Is there some like pretty stuff? Let's see, the font is too large. Smaller, please. Okay, this guy is like a political commentator. He's very knowledgeable. This guy, he's we call him Professor Jiang. Okay, he is on YouTube. He has a channel called Predictive History, which is idiotic, sensational name. Because let me tell you guys. Okay, let me digress. Okay, into this topic. Predictive history. First of all, let me introduce you guys who he is. Okay, so about a year ago or two, he started to become popular among the so-called the manosphere, basically among the American politics who are talking about MAGA, Make America Great Again, or Christianity, or concern about the other race, and that like the political, talking points. We've been talking so much about Trump, about the Middle East wars, right? So like a year or two ago, he started to appear, and he's got YouTube channel Predictive History. And apparently he's a he's Chinese, of course, Chinese blood in Canada, Canadian citizenship or something. But anyway, the first video I saw, he's in Canada talking. I think maybe this the background is Canada. Anyway, so he's supposedly like Chinese Canadian, and anyway, so he have a YouTube channel, Predictive History, named, that's a channel name. And what he talks about a very knowledgeable guy. Okay, this guy is very knowledgeable guy. So I've spent by now, I've watched maybe 5 of his videos. Like each one is 1 hour long or 2. So I spent by now like maybe 10 or 20 hours watching him. But he's got like lots of tens of videos. Like you have to watch him like 50 or 100 hours. Okay. Anyway, so he's got Predictive History channel. The name says that he's. So what does he talk about? He talks about several things. Okay. He talks about mostly history related, Western, okay, let me tell you. He talks about religion, history of Western religion, especially, the Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, history of Western religion. He also talks about so-called geopolitics of the current situation, okay, about Trump, and religion, and also he talks about civilization, like the general concept and history of Western civilization. Okay, like I think almost all the things he talked about is the Western part, Western history, Western religion, Western civilization. Okay, the history of. So he talks, and what makes a civilization, what makes an empire rise or fall. He talks about all these kind of things. And one of the things he is saying is that he's doing prediction. He claims he's using game theory. He is looking at current political situation, doing analysis of so-called geopolitics using from game theory perspectives, and then predict what will happen. Okay, that is his like premise. That's why the channel is called Predictive History, and he's using game theory. You see, right in the title, let's game theory. So, but it turns out if you watch him, he's extremely knowledgeable. He just he can talk about these topics: Western history, religion, society, civilization, and also the current political situation. Trump election and so on, the powers in Middle East and so on. So I was quite impressed. So one thing I don't know much, there's a lot of things I don't know because each human animals, you are pretty petty. Looks like I'm losing watchers, but anyway, let me talk about this. So a lot, the lots of things I don't know, but but one thing I don't know is basically the Western religion, the Christianity. I don't know that much about it, and Islam. So when he's talking about that, I learned lots of things. And also he's not, like the typical educator. Like I've been living in USA for 30 years or plus or more. So of course you live in USA for long, you know something about Christianity. But he's not just like teaching you the normal Christianity. He's telling you, from his perspective, history of Western civilization, Christianity, with a twist. Effectively, he ties it to like he has this kind of take about secret societies, Freemason, and what's the religion the before Christianity, like the paganism or monoism, and also relates to monoism, polytheism, one god or multiple god. So he talks about all these topics, but he has a particular take. Basically, he's saying that I don't want to say what he's saying, but you can kind of watch him talk. Okay, but anyway, so to me, I find it very knowledgeable. He's a great educator. So even if you do not agree, you may find it very pleasant to listen through, and you will probably learn many things, okay, from this guy, even if you are, a white Christian. So anyway, so it's very I was very impressed, very knowledgeable guy. But but his conclusions, I do not agree at all. I mean, he's like the heart of his take is that he believes the world is going around the way the world, the entire geopolitics moves, the powers, is because there are these so-called Illuminati, or some like some people will call globalist. He believes that there are these people, kind of mystical people that controls the world. Okay, that is actually his like final conclusion after all his, his knowledge about civilization, about empires, about history of religions of different branches, like everything. But at the end, he believes that there's this Illuminati that controls the world, which is so it makes him like conspiracy, kind of like, to me, it's, if you ask me, I think it's idiotic. It's like just pure bullshit. Okay. Funny, pure bullshit. So, but note again, let's go back to the title, Predictive History. Okay. That is a so-called oxymoron. Okay. You can never predict anything. Okay. That is a fact. That is like, by definition, you cannot predict. It doesn't matter, game theory, whatever shit. The simple fact is nobody can ever predict nothing, not a thing. Okay, that is a fact. That is, if you believe sciences, okay, and you do not believe voodoos, magic, sorcerers, only the sorcerers, or God, they will say, you can predict something will happen, something will not happen. The stock is gonna go this way. You need to buy that stock, or that's what prediction means. Science. What about science? Can science predict? Well, yeah, a little bit. That's a key. That's a key theory about science. You cannot predict. Period. Okay, nobody can predict what will happen. You could, in some scientific way, like we can predict whether tomorrow will rain. We can predict whether next week will rain. But when it gets a bit further, like next month, precisely this time, will it rain? We don't know. Nobody knows. Okay. When it gets further, that's science. So this guy, he came out like, oh, I'm gonna use game theory. Therefore, I can predict. My channel is called Predictive History. I'm gonna predict everything, and the world is run by Illuminati. Fucking. So to me, that's like idiots. Okay, but the white people, the Western society, the white men, they get excited. Because the white people, they are into this UFO, UFO, aliens, UFO, Illuminati, or these Freemasons, or, they are Rosicrucians, they get very excited, these Christian people, about this kind of thing. The end of the world, like the end of the world, apocalypse, like they talked about it all the time. So anyway, that is my take. I find it kind of silly. Okay, the predictive history, and so what about? But he became, so right now he became very kind of very popular. He all of a sudden, like, to a lot of people, all of a sudden, like among, he being interviewed on lots of the podcasts, who's got millions of followers, several of them. He got interviewed by them. But he went on to Piers Morgan. Like he appeared on Piers Morgan's like yesterday. But again, he makes very a lot of his commentaries are very interesting. Okay, so he make a lot very interesting commentaries. But I can't, I don't believe these secret societies and mysticisms and the end of the world, eschatology, the crap, and predictive history. No, you can't predict shit. Okay, nobody can ever predict shit. That's just a fact. Okay, you don't predict game theory shit. Game theory is a mathematical theory. It's like you just can't predict shit. So anyway, that is my take about this guy. So Charlie Jack says this professor is a liar. He preys on the ignorant and feeds them lies. You wouldn't drink poison water. I don't think he's lying. I mean, okay, on this issue, I don't think anyone knows. Just like lots of these politics, like Nick Fluenty, like you are a Fed. No, you are a Fed. Like they are, like every, this Spider-Man meme. I think nobody knows. Okay, like he's kind of, nobody really knows, whether he's like, but I know, but I don't think he's lying. Because you can kind of tell. I mean, you could say maybe he's like, what you mean is that he's like an agent. He's paid by someone to do this talk. He's not. I mean, but he's not lying. Like he's not acting, but because you can tell he know the stuff. It looks to me, as far as I can, my perception, he's like real. He knows the stuff by heart. He can just tell you right away why he thinks this way or that way, and he believes in this mysticism. He has a complete coherent picture, the whole Western society and history and religion to support his conclusions. So I don't think he's like someone who doesn't know anything, fed by script or whatever to act. I don't think that's the case. But is he like paid? That becomes very complex because it's very difficult to it's hard to even to define what is meant by like an agent or whatever. Because if you say he's an agent, there are many definitions. Like, is he officially work for some agency by contract, or is he anyway? There's a lot of things going on. So anyway, I think I digressed a lot about that. Okay, I don't want to. Anyway, so let's go back to code. Okay, so anyway, we were mentioning him. Okay, let's do a screenshot of this. So let's say I do a screenshot. Okay, so you see it's there. So I can press, and that screenshot gets moved here, and it automatically adds all these tags. So you can see, you can open the file, you see it's there, and it also automatically do optimization of the image, and also removing the metadata, redundant metadata, and optimize the PNG. Okay, so you see, so there's a file. So fantastic, and let's rename it. Professor Jiang. Okay, and this is PNG. Let's convert it to JPEG. You can watch my pink window to see what command I'm coding. Okay, convert to JPEG. Okay, done. You see, so it says what? It says done. Convert to JPEG. Original size 37100. New size, 371K. New size 161K. So saved half from PNG to JPEG. Okay, open it. Good. Okay, and rename this figure caption. So you can do that by press. Okay, so you got Professor Jiang. Now show this in browser. Okay, we got the screenshot here, but there's a problem. You see, whenever I call that command, by the way, that command is called so many commands. It just you see, there is convert to JPEG, and the other command I'm doing, I'll just show you here. Okay, so let's see. Press. So the command I was calling was Xah HTML move image file. Okay, that command. Now, when you call that command, it will move a image file from your screenshot directory to the current files directory, okay, automatically. So fantastic. Also, when it moves the file, it will automatically attach kind of this random hexadecimal to the end of it. Okay, so let's look at the source code. Okay, that is a command. So 170, about 70 lines of code. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to add, you see, it adds a hexadecimal there, but I was thinking I don't want a random hexadecimal. Let's see. Okay, so that's a hexadecimal. Press. That's a hexadecimal. You see, these are hexadecimals. But what I want, I think it might be better if I have a random string of letters. So not just hexadecimal. Hexadecimal is 0 to 9 and A to E, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I mean to E. So I want, A to Z. So instead of just a hexadecimal here, I want a sequence of random letters. That's what I want to do. Okay, so that is what I want to change. Okay, so what do you do there? So make it text. Okay, so what I want to do, yeah, so change that would be somewhere here. So you see, this is a line. Okay, let me make a copy. So actually, you see, this whole thing is where you create the name for the file. Okay, so the hexadecimal line is here. So format 5 spots of hexadecimal, then you do what? Oh, so string to number match string. So what we are doing here, is very interesting. In fact, you see, when we do a screenshot, let me show you, okay? So screenshot, when we do a screenshot, the way Microsoft creates screenshot is that, if you go to the screenshot directory, it appends, you see, a date, of course, year, month, date, then it appends hour, 2 digits, hour, 17 o'clock, then minutes in 2 digits, then seconds. Okay, so hour, minute, second, 6 digits. Okay, so when you do a screenshot, Microsoft creates this format. You have minute, you have hour, minute, second. Now, what my code does is that take that hour, minute, second. You see this this regular expression. This regular expression match year, month, date, then hour, minute, second, 6 digit of them here, regular expression, and it turns that into a hexadecimal. In other words, what the command does is it formats this this 6 digits of hour, minute, second into a hexadecimal digit. That's what my command does. And that's what you see here. So it becomes 2989C. The reason I'm doing that is because so that this way, you see, this is not a random number. This way you will have you will maintain order of the file. So if you have a lot of screenshots, let's say I do another one, you can do another screenshot. So if you have lots of screenshots, and when you do, when I call my command, they change the hour, minute, second, you still have the correct order of the time when they are taken. You can still order them. So that is why, that's what I did here, okay? Does that make sense? Is this interesting? So, hello, author. Okay. Is this interesting? Coffee, just coffee today. So the question is, what do I want to do now? Okay, so and the code here is fairly complicated. I was never happy about this code. Do you guys know why? Because if I take the time to explain this, it's gonna take another 10 minutes just to explain. You see, because this is about Emacs Lisp programming language, and the issue is about kind of coding style, functional programming style. You see, what I have here is basically you are setting this variable x new name that is meant to be the new file name for the image file, the new name. So, but what I do here is, so let's temporarily create a variable xx, and so here is from path. That's the original file path of where the file is from. You take out the file name extension, then you take out the directory, so you just got the file name there, xx. Then you set it again by do a regular expression replacement. Replace whatever begin with TT, a number, remove that. Okay. The reason is because whenever I do a screenshot, in like, or in all my personal files in desktop directory or in document directory, if the file begin with TT, then a number, that means those files, whenever you call the command, it will move to the current file. Anyway, so those files, any files beginning with TT means that I want to block those images. So it could be anywhere. It will just find it and move it to my current block directory. So that's what this does. It will just remove the TT something number, okay? Remove that in the name. Then the next thing it does, it replace, the screenshot spelling or screen space shot to remove those words, because you don't want the screenshot. Remove it by SSHOT, shorten it and normalize it. Why do you want to do that? Because on Windows, on Mac, sometimes on on different operating system, the screenshot, each operating system, they have their own different ways to the file name. Some is screenshot one word, some is screenshot two words. That's why you do this replacement, okay? Then the next replacement is that you want to remove a bunch of weird characters like comma, space, parenthesis, or @ sign, or the vertical bar in the file name. Remove them, replace all by just low line, okay? So anyway, so that's what this part about. And the last one is like remove the last 6 digits. That's hour, minute, second, convert it into a hexadecimal. Convert them into a hexadecimal so that the file names still remain the order they are taken. You can still order them. So for example, if you are reviewing keyboards, you take a lot of photos, and when you call this command, they they move all the files into your current directory, you can still know which photo come first. Okay, that's why. So this is great, but you see the coding style aspect. You see, if you are doing functional programming, but what you are doing here is you set a variable, you set this value to this variable, then set it again. That's like, so what you have is so-called mutable. You are muting the variable value. Well, how do they say? You are changing a variable's value repeatedly. So, but in functional programming, you don't want to do that. Okay. So that's why I'm saying I'm not happy with this code. So how do you fix that? Well, it's not easy in Emacs Lisp, because if you like normally you would just do it like for example, let's remove that. Let me show you how you would do it. Okay. So put that there, and you don't need that. Okay. You did see that, cut that, put that there, and you don't need that. Okay. Cut that and put it here. Okay. And cut then you just then you cut that. You don't need that. You put this in the XX place. Okay. So this is how you fix it. Okay. And you cut that. You don't need that. Set Q new name. This. Okay. So you see this this block of code now become this block of code. In a functional style, there is no variable mutation anymore. Fantastic. However, this this one becomes unreadable. Well, you can try to format it a little bit, but basically it still is unreadable. Okay, so for example, let's okay, let's do some formatting. Lambda. Okay, yeah, it became kind of like that. Still, this is like basically, yeah, you see, you got this. Oh god, very hard to format. You cannot really possibly format it well. Okay, so anyway, so you see, this is very clear and much clearer and simple, but you have the variable mutation. Here you don't have the variable mutation, but it's like very nested and hard to edit and hard to read. So that is the problem. How do you fix it in Emacs Lisp? There's no easy way. Okay, so I have not found a satisfactory way. Hello. Okay, that's about the coding style, about this functional programming coding style issue. So now if we go back to our code, what we want to do is add a well, we wanted to add like letters, but now I think maybe not. Because this represents the hour, minute, second. So you see this hexadecimal represents the hour, minute, second. So they are actually meaningful. They are not just random hexadecimals. So, but why do I want to add, from A to Z? Because it's easier to refer to. For example, if I want to jump to this file name, in this case, I have to search for 2989. That's harder to type compared to if it's some of these letters. For example, search MTP. Okay. For example, search QSQ. Okay. Let's say I'm here, search DMN. You see, I can easily search DMN, easily jump to any of these random sequence of letters. But if I want to jump to a random sequence of hexadecimals, that may not be easy. For example, this one is DB, so search for DB there. What about that one? So you have to search for, okay, you have to type a number 6D, okay? So, I mean, my point is that it requires you to type numbers, and numbers are on top of the keyboard row. So usually it's harder to type. So that is why I was hoping to change the command so that it uses random append random letters to the file. But now, having looked at the code, I think maybe not. Why? Because if you add it, it's gonna be too long. You are adding a large long file, the file name is gonna be too long. That's one thing. The other thing, and then the other thing is that you cannot just replace the hexadecimals because they represent order. So now, having looked at the code, I think maybe not, okay? But, okay, so but here we are doing, what we are doing here is the comparison. Okay, what? Okay, here, then. Okay, I got a connection disruption. Am I still good now? Looks like I got a internet connection disruption. Am I still good? If you are here, say hi, okay? Mutating a variable. Not good functional programming style, okay? And in this style is good functional programming style, but hard to read and hard to modify. Okay, so this is about functional programming style in Emacs Lisp issue. So let's cut that and let's go back to our talk show and let's add it there so people know what we undo. Let's show in browser so people know what we were talking about this issue. Like I make idempotent API with Claude Code Agent AI. So okay, idempotent API with Claude Code Agent AI. So what is your point? Idempotent, don't use that word, because like whenever you see that word, usually whatever the code is no good. Don't use that word. If you want to say, just say, like I don't think you ever need that word actually. I like to say idempotent. Okay, are you trolling me? Because I ran about that. idempotent. That's like, that's like people who don't know what they're doing say that. Okay, so we talked about that issue. So, and we talked about that coding style, functional programming, mutating a variable issue in Emacs Lisp, which is impossible to fix. Okay. Also, we addressed this change we were thinking of doing, but let's not do, because now we looked at code. Now we looked at the code. What is this one? Yeah, so delete that. Oh, there's a few more. Okay, open it. Delete, delete, delete. Okay, you don't want that. Close, 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 close. Okay, open that. Yeah, the code here. Let's see if we made any changes. Okay, so we added a new space. We don't want space. Remove the space. Check. No change. Okay, good. So we were going to make some change to this file, but now I decided maybe not. Okay, this Xah HTML move image. It's better not to, I think. But how do you do? You see, there's this functional programming issue. How do you avoid this variable mutation in Lisp? Because you see, the problem is Lisp does not have the pipe syntax. In Clojure, you do, but not in Lisp. So this is a problem. Okay, so what's the next? Showing browser. So we talked about this guy. We talked about the first thing. Okay, we talked about that thing. Next. Okay, next topic is polymorphism. Should we talk about that? Maybe not today, maybe next day then. Okay, so like so, I made idempotent API with Claude Code Agent AI. So Skeletor's delight. So like idempotent API. So you have to think about what the fuck does it mean? You see, idempotent typically means it's a name for a property of a function. So that when the function is applied to an argument and the function is applied again to the result, it does not change. Okay, that's what idempotent means. For example, let's say absolute value. Okay, so absolute value. So it's a function. So 3, the absolute value, if you give it an argument of 3, the result is still 3. Now you apply the function again, absolute value of 3 is still 3. It does not change. Okay. So what if you give it negative 3? Absolute value of negative 3. Okay. The result is 3. You apply it again, does it change? No. So it means a function, repeated application of the function does not change the value. If I recall correctly, that's what idempotent means, but I have to make sure. Am I check, am I drunk? No. It's coffee. Right. Am I correct? Idempotent. Yeah, repeated application does not change the value. That's a property called idempotent. Okay, I'm pretty sure. So, but that's a property of a function. Now, when you say idempotent API, now, wow, that's something. That what does that mean? Because idempotent is a property of a function or operator. Operator is just a syntactical aspect of the function of a function. Okay, operator and function actually are the same thing. It's just that one is a syntactical perspective. Okay, so idempotent is a property of a function. Now, API is not a function. So when you say idempotent API, API stands for Applications Programmers Interface, which is a idiotic jargon created by Java. Okay. Well, actually, it's not idiotic jargon. It's a great jargon. Application Programmers Interface. But the Java people since 1995 abused it so that the Java programming language, they call themselves API. Like the programming language itself is an API. The fucking Java fuckheads, these industrial coders. Do you know what I mean? API stand for Application Programming Interface, okay? Basically, it just means a set of functions you can use, you can call to do something. It's documented, to interact with some other system, among two different systems. So, for example, I can in Emacs or in browser, they can call the operating system's API. So the operating system can, launch an application or something, or go to what does operating system do? Well, depending on what kind of level of API. So, for example, you are programming networking, operating system provides API to allow you to do TCP/IP, like internet traffic, talk to some internet node or server. So application programming is interface. So idempotent is a name for a property of a function. So, but what does idempotent API mean? Well, you can try to infer it. So if you try to infer it, then idempotent means something that does not change. Then you got idempotent API. So it could mean that every function in the API is idempotent. Okay. But first of all, let's make sure we understand idempotent correctly. Idempotent refers to an operation, function, or request that can be applied multiple times without changing the result beyond the initial application. Exactly. That's what I said. The outcome remains the same whether the operation is performed once or many times. Okay. So it's operation function, that describes a function or operation, but it does not describe API. So, but when people say idempotent API, what does it mean? Well, you can try to infer. Then it could mean that every function in the API is idempotent. Or it could mean somehow the API is like doesn't change. That's kind of silly. You see, so this is when this programming fad, usually like this startup in Silicon Valley here, they or people who don't know a thing about programming language, they try to impress you. That's when they say that that's when you hear all these kind of jargons mash up. Okay, so anyway, so I'm doing fuck, I'm kind of, you know, I actually, shit, I got things to do, but when I started to do live stream, I just explain things, and I find it difficult to actually do anything useful. Okay. So let's regroup. Okay, so we did explain, this cat girls fight AI. We explained, what did we do today? We explained, then we explained this tweet. Okay, let me, since we talked about this, so let me just copy that. Let's summarize what we actually talked about today. Okay, this Professor Jiang, very interesting. Okay, so that's a link to it, and we did explain this check. Okay, so this video, okay, we did explain that. I reposted. Okay, copy that. Show in browser. We use that as our thumbnail. Okay, let's add the link here. So it really shouldn't be. Cut that. Let's move it down. Let's move it to the bottom. New section. Paste it there. Remove the to-do. Remove the date. Show in browser. So scroll down. There. Okay, we explained that thing. And we explained this Professor Jiang. So let's move down, okay? But first of all, after that cat girls fight, we explained this thing, open in browser. So let's organize. Okay, that's this thing we did. So that thing, okay, so before Professor Jiang, okay, so we explained that thing, okay. So that's just cut. So go down here, HR break, show, now show in browser. Fantastic. Okay, we talked about the cat girls fighting AI. Then we talked about this Emacs Lisp coding. HTML open in browser. Yeah, so we did that. Fantastic. Show in browser. Fantastic. So next thing, okay, we did that. Then we explained this Professor Jiang. Okay, yeah. So let's put it in order. Go to the top, search for JIAN. Okay, there, and cut. Go down. Go here. Break. Paste it. Show in browser. Okay. Then we explained. We were trying to do this Xah HTML move image file. So it adds a random letter in file name, not just hexadecimal. Okay. But after we looked at the code, we decided we don't want to do that. We did some experiment. Okay. Search for hex. So this is hexadecimal. Okay. Okay, let's spell it out. So we did that, and what is this? Cut that. So yeah, so we did that, and cut. Now go to the bottom. Let's start a new section there. Okay, then delete, and also here cut. Okay, new section. What? Cut. Okay. New section. Cut. And here cut. Okay, now showing browser. Okay, so here we have an empty section. Search for section. We got empty section there. Delete. Refresh. Okay, so we did talk about this. Then we talked about, okay, let's make them a separate section. So dy edge. So search for dy edge there. Cut. Okay. New section. Paste. Delete, and go down. Delete. Show. Okay, we did that. Then we did that. Then we did Professor Jiang. Then we did that. Is it good? Yes. We decided not to do it. Okay, and we talked about the coding style issue of mutable variable in Emacs Lisp. Nasty problem. You see, this is not really a practical problem, because for vast majority of people, it is not a concern. People just get things done. The code works, right? But to me, I mean, to certain, like, if you are focused on programming language design or certain philosophical aspect of coding, then you are concerned about this, because this is about coding style. This is about coding a functional style without mutating a variable versus mutating a variable. So Emacs Lisp is predominantly a functional programming language. So if you code in functional programming language style, usually you do not want mutating a variable like here. So how can you improve it? That's the issue we are talking about here. So you can remove the variable mutation, but the code becomes much harder to read. So that is like an issue we spend time on. So like why is this helpful? I mean, for most people, most industrial coders, this is not an issue. You waste time. You waste time to think about this kind of problem, because the code is, just works and correct. But however, you see, this is kind of like about design and about elegance. So, and which is significant in other ways, because without thinking about these kind of issues, you will never improve on like design issues like this, like, for example, functional programming. Functional programming by itself is almost unnecessary, because why? C works, C++ works. You just mutate variables. What's wrong with it? But it turns out, actually, there's lots of problems. Like when you need function critical situations like nukes, you want things to be provable. Also, when you are writing programs that prove theories or automated proof systems, which is very advanced AI, that's like our perfection of AI. That's our final goal. Could we create an AI that just automatically create all the theorems possible in the world? You don't need mathematicians anymore. In the world, the most important people in a sense are mathematicians, because they create theories that computer science and physicists and chemistry all depend on, basically mathematics. Okay. And proof, and what math depends on is proof, theorems. Okay, you need theorems. So can't you just create a machine that can automatically create all possible theorems? So that's the ultimate goal. So, but then if you look into that, then we have the past 60 years of experience doing that. We learned that, okay, you don't want, in programming languages, you don't want mutating variables, because that creates lots of problems, and you cannot prove things. Because if you want actually do proofs, you want a system that doesn't do the variable mutation. Okay, so therefore, then you have functional programming, and many of it, and proof theory, and type theory, and type inference. These technology advancements in computer science, even in those imperative programming languages such as Golang. Go language is not functional programming language, and it is meant to replace C++. It's like imperative programming language. But however, in Golang, it has type inference, which is significantly, basically it came from this functional programming research. So that's what I'm saying. Like some problems, like you seems to be like you are concerned about style, and which may not be practical, but but actually it depends. There's like complete different ways to look at things. So these style issues become critical, because they create a entire new branch of programming language and theorems. This about variable mutation issue. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so nobody comments. No comments. Okay, let's see how far I'm gonna go with this. Okay, so I already talked for Jesus. I already talked for 100 hours. 100 minutes. Okay, so we talked about that. We did this, which is what I want to do. Finally done. We talked about Professor Jiang, which I didn't want to do, but we talked for 20 minutes about it. Anyway, but anyway, this is actually interesting. I do want to talk about it, just not in programming session, because this kind of topic, in fact, when you talk about this kind of topic, non-technical, non-programming related, actually there's a lot of people who are interested in them. In fact, that's what you see people talk about on Twitter often. Oh, I got new Jesus, these Dave Cooper idiots. Anyway, so like most people, they don't know programming, so they want, actually, if you talk about something non-technical, they can actually appreciate. So anyway, I do wanted to talk about the Professor Jiang, about because this relates to philosophy, religion, and the current political situation. And I want to tell you guys about my opinion about these, like, these white people obsessions about, end of the world, religious. Oh, actually, I have made a post. Actually, let me mention it. Okay, let's make this talk show. Let's just actually, I made a post about Professor. So I've been watching this guy. I started to know about this guy, hear about this guy since last year, last year June. Okay, so by now it's almost a year. Spectacular guy. Okay, but what I wanted to say is that okay, I want to tell you guys. Okay, I haven't talked about before. God, this guy is an idiot. This guy, Brett Weinstein, and his brother is worse, far worse, Eric Weinstein. It's like academic mumbo jumbler. They would, whatever they have to say, like something simple in a sentence, normally you can say it, but they will take that sentence and twist it and make it like 10 sentences with twisted logic so that you don't understand what they're saying and they think it's profound. That's these people, these two brothers, like their brain is somehow works that way. Okay, they are unable to express simple ideas. I mean, or any idea, when they want to express it, they twist them up into this academic mumbo jumbo. That's these two people, these twin. So anyway, about the Professor Jiang, what I want to tell you guys is that oh, by the way, another thing interesting on Twitter is that, like, what do crypto people do on Twitter? You see a lot of them. Like, you can see a lot of them. And there's also the My Lady, and then there's Ugly Monkey, crypto. Like all these, and of course, they are all anon and shit posting. A lot of them, and also my followers, like, for example, recently, yesterday, one of my posts becomes super popular. Okay, so many, like all these people, today's world, all these people, we got all the people that are not, but you see, so where are some of the? But anyway, you can see a lot of them crypto. Okay, so the thing, so this, so you wonder what do they do? Crypto people. So I asked AI. So this AI says crypto people on X form one of the most active, chaotic, and influential communities on the platform. It's basically 24/7 mix of finance, gambling, memes, networking, and performance art. Okay, shilling and promoting coins, farming, engagement, and cloud, shit posting and memes, alpha hunting and sharing calls, complaining about rugs, scams, or bear markets, post market takes and prediction. Like just crap, like total crap. Today's generation, like some of them are following me, right? But they think that this, like, that's how they make money. I don't know. Maybe they are making money, but it's like scam. What are you guys doing? So there's crypto. Then the other thing is about stocks. Um. So about crypto, for example, like, so if I don't know what you guys think, but you are thinking, so if you can make money, let's say $10,000, of but that you are doing scams, like scamming people, they all gambling, like this, But you are willing to do it. Is that what these people are thinking? That's good. That's, but also, but meanwhile, also, you can never, unless you are actually criminal. You actually scam people. You can actually never like do crypto and make a lot of money for certain. Well, actually, crypto you can hold. But anyway, this is just like shit. These are like, what would they say? Kind of like gambling. Okay, crypto people. Anyway, on the Jiang, what I want to say. Okay, I think I'm gonna shut down. Okay, on the Professor Jiang, here is what I want to say. Okay, yeah. So he's into talking about eschatology, which just means religious thoughts about end of the world, like how the world is going to end. Okay, so he believes in those kind of things, and he think so. But so whenever he talks about that, I think he's just like a nut job or an agent. It tickles the white man, the like the basically the Christian society people, or especially the American Christians, like American Christians. They are into UFO, aliens, apocalypse, and whatever, and 4D chess. They like to think about that all the time. And also especially about geopolitics. I have friends like into that. Like when they look into, and when these white people, they look at this political situation, they don't look at them in a normal way. They have always they need to look at them via this 4D chess and stuff, and God. Oh, very funny. Okay, so I think that's it for this video. Actually, I'm not too happy about this video. Maybe I'll delete this video. How many people are watching? 4. Okay. Because this video we talked a lot about politics. Okay. Anything else? Mm, yeah, so let's copy the link. Mm, is there other things I want to do? Yeah, there is about polymorphism. Okay, polymorphism. No, I'm not gonna do the polymorphism because that would take an hour by itself. Okay. what are the other things to do? So ampersand, yeah, so I can write a function. There is that function I can write. I can do that in 5 minutes. Okay, that's it. Bye, guys.